Well, I was blown away by this, really blown away for sure. I expect the worst from them, the worst, but I didn't think they would go this far. It's just crazy. Imagine Real Madrid football players doing this to some minors during the league title celebration. I mean, it's just a really crazy thing. Really crazy, man. Now let's go to the video, which is really well made, by the way, and you can clearly see how they did something that, for me, is unforgivable, something that has barely been talked about. The celebration was on Monday, right? And it was, hey, Thursday. I hadn't seen this before. It's crazy. Well, just look at how fed up the people at Espanyol are. For example, even my friend Ernest Rivera is my friend, my colleague, my brother. Ernest is amazing, you know? And Ernest, besides, is a guy who's very careful when it comes to soccer and getting into trouble. But he supports Espanyol, sending a hug to Ernest from here. Well, I don't know if he'll see this video. If not, maybe later. We talk on WhatsApp, but the Espanyol fans are so fed up with these people. And of course, so are we. But it's just that what Ernest says here, that yesterday Barça lost. Barça lost, and we haven't mentioned it in any video yet, right? That's harsh, but oh well. The thing is, I don't really care about that. But not to other people or not to the fans of teams that are fighting to avoid relegation. And as the good Ernest says here, he says, don't get mad at FC Barcelona, fans of Girona, Elche, Levante, Osasuna, Rayo, Mallorca, Espanyol, which he counts himself among, Valencia and Sevilla for not taking a single shot on goal. Flick's team didn't take a single shot. Losing the 5th match in 36 rounds against Alaves, who had only won 9 matches. Understand their coach, since he was saving the players so they would be fresh for the Champions League final. Man, seriously, what a bunch. What a bunch. Even before the Negreira case broke out, these people barely got any criticism in the stadiums of Spain. Barely any criticism. But I go back to what I said in the previous videos. It's a matter of narrative. They've handled that much better. So much so that even after paying Negreira for 20 years a refereeing chief, for which they still haven't been convicted, they haven't paid, they haven't, well, been punished. That's why what's happening in Spanish football is unbelievable. They keep repeating it in stadiums across Spain following Madrid, and you have to put up with it. People say Madrid steals, but I ask for documented payments. There aren't any. But what about Barça? There are, right? Well, anyway. But also pay attention to this video because it's incredible, huh? They were celebrating there on the parade road, and at one point in the houses across the way, on the terraces, on the balconies across the street, a guy shows up wearing a Madrid jersey, and you'll see. I'll say whose video it is. He posted it himself and is really good at making these videos.
You're miserable. You must have seen Rafinha make this gesture to just kids who aren't even 10 years old, right? Well, it's even worse because from the Barça bus they even threw objects at some kids who were just joking around, confirming what we already knew, that Barça fans are dying of envy for Real Madrid and that before supporting their own team, they're anti-Real Madrid.
His name is Martin Perez. The kids were here. Well, I think what they threw at him was a sandwich. The boy is wearing a Madrid jersey. There's an Algerian flag there, but there are 2 kids, because I don't know if this boy is 18 or not. I don't think so. But what about these other 2 kids who are here? Well, you can laugh at them, you can say something to them, or you can answer back like whatever, right? But listen, Rafinha, man, Rafinha. What, at them? Hold on, because it's clear here, right? Look, here's what Rafinha is doing. You can see them a little farther away here. And I think the other one is Gerard Martin. I think I can't see his face. I'm not sure. I think so. And the one on the far left is Valde, I think. And they're already making these gestures at them because look, it's part of the same shot, right? It's not like there's any editing here. And what Rafinha is doing, who has the Brazilian flag here on his leg, and Gerard Martin, and I think it's Gerard Martin. I don't want to rush, but it's the middle finger gesture. And I'm freaking out. To some kids, man, you can tell them, come on, whatever, or throw them a sandwich, which is also really bad. But to me, this seems like the worst. But what are 2 guys doing? Besides, like someone said in a comment here, Rafinha is a father, man. I don't think so. it's the other one, right? If it's about Gerrard, but it doesn't matter. How is it possible that they do this? If some Real Madrid players did this during a title celebration, just imagine what would have been said. Hey, you need to know because Martin Perez, who makes really good videos, makes a video, I don't know how many days later, and nothing happens here. They're protected, man. These people are protected. I mean, what we're talking about with the whole Real Madrid thing, and well, all this that they've beaten us in recent years, right? For not doing the work we should have done with the more than 800 million followers that Real Madrid has on social media. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. They steal your thunder. And then, man, they chant at you like this, like this. In Madrid, in every stadium in Spain, when the ones who paid a referee chief were them. It's unbelievable. By the way, Barça has been fined by UEFA, but don't worry. As David Alvarez said, for now, that's it. For now, that's it. 22,500 euros. That's nothing for Barça. Well, that's nothing for Barça. They have money problems, even though all Spanish football institutions favor them. And this is because of the delay at the start of the second half against Atletico de Madrid and the fireworks in the Barça supporters area. Those were the reasons, and it happened at the Metropolitano, right? I mean, where the Barça fans were. Well, let's hope it's not the last fine from UEFA, whether it's because of that dossier that Real Madrid is going to present. It's true what Florentino says about next week, whether it's because in our case, well, they're still asking for information and they'll get on it soon. So that hopefully, and justice will be served. Of course, Barça can't be in the next Champions League or in the following ones at the very least, right? That punishment for a club that paid 8.4 million, hearing myself say it, I can't believe it. But you have to say it and say it and say it and be persistent and persistent and persistent. 8.4 million to a head of referees over 2 decades by 4 presidents, and one of them, the one who quadrupled the payments, is currently holding the position of president of Barça. Well, then the match against Oviedo, I won't be at the Bernabeu, but I'll watch it here at home and I'll react to it on Big Up. Watch out for the reaction at the Bernabeu. I'll be waiting for you there. You have the link in the description of this video so you can join me later on that platform. We'll be reacting live. You can also make predictions. You already know how. And well, now let's move on to something that will bring us closer to the main point and the core of this video, which is the topic of election campaigns. Let's see if there are any bids here besides Florentino's. Let's see if there are any names, and big names at that. We mentioned in the previous video that Riquelme's team from this candidacy is talking about the name. And I want to reflect on that move, but Florentino has 2 very big names. One is Mourinho and the other is Toni Kroos, who I really like them. I want to see what the other side offers me, if the other side actually runs, of course. I want to see it. Anyway, let's go through this first. Official statement, Real Madrid will regain possession of the Sky Bar after the court-authorized agreement. Remember the concert issue. With the fact that Madrid is not criminally liable. The one they set up to manage the stadium, with Jose Angel Sanchez running it, is also not criminally liable. It's important for concerts to return, even though some say they won't. El Confidencial claims concerts won't come back, but I think they will. The thing is, it won't be immediate, not even close. But that and today's issue with the Sky Bar, which have been the 2 little problems or big problems that have come up for Real Madrid after building the stadium and all, with what was promised. Back in the day, it was supposed to be an important source of income. And let's not underestimate the Sky Bar, because yes, it really is. Absolutely. It's no coincidence that these 2 things have come up now. And Florentino uses his tools, and in that sense, he does it very well. I mean, hey, I call elections, fine. I give very little time, 10 calendar days. In the middle, a 3-day holiday for San Isidro in Madrid. We already talked about it in the previous video, right? And on top of that, one day there's news about a court victory. And the next day, another one. Another victory, right? They're small victories, but they resonate with the fans and make an impact. That's why I keep saying, if Madrid had just let Florentino hold a quick press conference to state the main points, bang, 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 a simple statement, that would have been enough. Many of us would say that at least they're doing something, even if he just talked about sports and such. But since he did what he did and has now given so much ammunition to the anti-Florentino people, to the anti-Madrid people, well, but anyway, that's good on that side. Of course, Florentino would run, which I also understand that he has it more or less tied up, even though it's been put on hold now, because, well, there has to be a process for presenting candidacies. He would have Toni Kroos lined up for sports management and Jose Mourinho as coach. I took this recreation made by artificial intelligence, which I found very funny. Because Vinicius, Mbappe, and Bellingham and the rest of the players, after seeing what you're showing there, it made me laugh. Because, well, in the end, they're the three most outstanding faces of this team. Not working in the mind, you guys get to work, because the plan would be work, sacrifice, discipline, unity, and glory. And there you would have these two figures much loved by Real Madrid fans, Jose Mourinho as coach and Toni Kroos in sports management. But be careful, I have to say something about this. They would get along, I think, right? We also thought that Valdano and Mourinho could get along at the time, even though they were like oil and water and they didn't get along, and Mourinho didn't hesitate to say, hey, I want this guy out, and he got him out. Well, whether Florentino pushed him out or Valdano left. In the end, however it happened, it seemed amicable since they didn't part on bad terms, but Mourinho wanted Valdano out. We have taken it for granted and assumed that they would get along. Hey, maybe one may not think the same way as the other, because they're very, very methodical people, very, very, very pragmatic and all that. And I think they could get along, but that's just an assumption. It seems clear Florentino would go with this. We don't know yet if he's running, if Enrique Riquelme would go with Klopp. That's what's being said, right? That apparently he would, and that he had reportedly contacted him. I mentioned this topic briefly in the previous video. Let me tell you something. I think that beyond an economic or management project and all that, on which Florentino has the edge because of what he has already done at Real Madrid. I think the most important thing, and what convinces the member, or at least what excites the member, and just like Florentino did in 2000, where Florentino, if he didn't go with the candidacy with the signing of Figo, he wouldn't have won, because there are people who say, no, it wasn't about the mail-in vote for Florentino. Yes, Florentino moved very well there in the year 2000, but excuse me, there were many members who said, how is he going to bring Figo to Madrid? People would say, for example, I voted for Florentino in 2000 because he brought Figo to Madrid. I couldn't believe it. I saw someone talking about modernizing Real Madrid and more. And I voted for Florentino, and that's what convinced me. Also because that's how we are, and also because I saw that with Lorenzo Sanz, we had just won the 8th, but man, there were problems. Seedorf had been sold because, as it was already being said, it was to pay salaries. At Madrid, everything was a complete mess, and I didn't like it. May Lorenzo Sanz rest in peace, but Madrid was not doing well. And on top of that, the Figo thing. So I think that if this man runs, it makes me laugh a lot, because they're saying that I'm campaigning for this man, as if I knew him, as if he had contacted us. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. People are unbelievable. But anyway, I'll end the aside, and that's it. I'm not going to give much importance to those, but I read comments that blow my mind, man. I wish someone was paying me for this, dude. Beyond YouTube, besides, I wouldn't even have the energy to make videos, knowing I was making them for self-interested reasons. I think it would be in the contract I have with you guys since day one when I started this. I've always made it very clear what this channel is about. I'll comment on the landscape and analyze current events. Anyone can follow me or not. It's their choice. I've always been honest with you. But anyway, what I say about this man, I think that no matter how much, no matter how good, I think he's sincere. Sometimes it's extremely important to have someone locked in and someone who generates a lot of excitement among Madrid fans. And I think it's always the club, because I think it would be the club, because it's become clear, even though we don't know for sure, but everything points to that the German was approached, and the German a few months ago, the way they let Xabi Alonso go, I don't like how Real Madrid operates. That's what he said. Things aren't 100% at Real Madrid. They give this guy a 3-year contract. They let him go after 6 months. But what happened here? He came here to do really well in the Bundesliga and all that. Klopp doesn't like Florentino. It's not that they don't like him, but I understand they don't like him. How does Madrid operate when it comes to coaches? And I'm supposed to leave this Red Bull empire where I'm doing great for this, right? And what if there's a move from this candidacy that hasn't even been presented yet? Let's see. It would be a big deal, because you'd be bringing him in. In this sense, they're committing to you, which they would never make public. I understand the club wouldn't. someone who has already said no to Florentino because of his sports policy, and you be saying, hey, am I bringing you something different from what JCE criticizes Florentino for? He knows that when it comes to economic management and at the institutional level and so on, it's very difficult to say that it can also be done to Florentino. But in terms of sports, look, I bring the guy who said no to Florentino because we want a solid long-term project with this gentleman and so on. And if on top of that you add a strong player, then you've really got a race. And there really is, not just a little, there really is. Anyway, I'll tell you something. Back in the day, I remember, and also that I met this gentleman years later through Angel Nieto. May he rest in peace. He was my friend and a colleague. While covering the Motorcycle World Championship on Spanish TV, we had lunch with people from the motorcycle world at Asador Donostiara, I think. Look, Bernard Riberas is over there too, and suddenly Angel shows up, and Angel was there with us. He says he's coming here. Juan Palacios, who ran in 2006, lost to Calderon, promising Jose Antonio Camacho, and Iniesta, although Iniesta never actually said he was part of that candidacy. So if he won, Juan Palacios was going to come to Real Madrid, but was there a lot written about that at the time or about Juan Palacios? I'm not sure if he confirmed it in person. I think he did. But anyway, it was known that if this man won the elections in 2006, Andres Iniesta was going to come. In fact, he was going to Fernandez Tapias. I think that was also the summer he didn't run because he resigned a few months before. It was Mije Remitido, Ramon Calderon, Juan Palacios, and maybe someone else, if I remember right. It was clear that Iniesta was going to come. Iniesta wasn't yet the player he later became. At that time, Camacho was backing him because he had done something, not what he did later at Albacete. I don't remember exactly what the connection was, but anyway, it hadn't happened yet in my life to the 2010 final. But anyway, he was going to come because Iniesta was upset with Ricard, as he would later admit that he hadn't played those last games of that 2005-2006 season. And in the Champions League final, where Barça wins against Arsenal in that way, Iniesta doesn't play or doesn't start. Iniesta was very upset about his lack of protection, his lack of prominence at Barça. And what if a candidate comes along with Jose Antonio Camacho, whom he was apparently very fond of, and he says to him, are you going to come to Madrid if I win? They said that Iniesta, the one who had said as a kid, a very young kid in a video, remember, I'm a Madrid fan all the way. When he played for Albacete in the Albacete youth team, I think, and it was known that he was a Madrid fan, so it was likely that he would come. Everyone knew that if Juan Palacios won, Iniesta would likely come, though he wasn't yet who he'd become. Well, he didn't win. It didn't go well for him. That's why many times... But promising a big name. Of course. Nowadays, Klopp is not the same as Iniesta was back then, not even close. Klopp would be a much bigger draw today. But what worked out well for Florentino in 2000 with Figo, that was a bombshell. By the way, as we said in the previous video, Florentino had much more time to prepare a candidacy. It was called on May 30th and the voting was on July 16th than what anyone who runs now is going to have. Florentino had to act quickly, but not as fast as he's making these guys do it now. The one who has the power in that sense commands, sets the rules of the electoral system, and that's just how it is. And he plays that game very well. His gesture to Florentino with these two El Skybar concert stories without giving the other guy any time. That's why I go back to the same thing. The only way there really would have been a race is if this man says, hey, I have Jurgen Klopp, damn, from that moment on, but well, we'll see. I wish you all the best. Enjoyed the video? Like, subscribe, comment, share, and follow me on Big Up with the link provided so we can experience it together. The match against Oviedo, because of everything it will mean at the Bernabeu, not because of anything related to qualifying or our desire to see our boys celebrate as champions there, not at all. But anyway, it's going to be fun. All right, see you later. Bye.